This is building a positive math culture to increase student understanding and fluency. My name is Amanda Younger, and I'm a grade 4 teacher at Langley Fundamental Elementary in School District 35. So I recognize that the Langley School District is on the traditional, unceded, and ancestral territories of the Kwantlen, Katzie, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Peoples. And these are the peoples whose home was and still is the Fraser River. And in the image, this was captured at Derby Reach. And this is a group of my summer students really getting to know the river that united our First Peoples here in the Fraser Valley. So our plan that we're going to take a look at, we're going to look at an overview of the data, some challenges that we have observed as a staff at my school, our goal, the inquiry questions, aims and objectives, who is going to be involved, opportunities for us to collaborate, strategies that we could implement to reach our goals, the resources and supports that will be required, steps to implementation, how we're going to measure success. So looking at our demographics, our total student population is fairly stable as a choice program. We have 500 students, and our numbers are stable this way year to year. You see, there is a slight flux between the number of males and females. Currently, we have 22 students identifying as having Aboriginal ancestry, 29 students who qualify with a designation as special education, and 33 ELL students. 9 of the 33 ELL students are currently in my classroom. So looking at our district numeracy assessment for grade 3 in the period from 2016 to 2021, noting that there is no data from June 2020 caused by COVID and our inability to complete the assessment at that time. So see, our numbers meeting or exceeding really alternate between being in the 60s and being in the 80s, and there isn't a consistent pattern from year to year. Again, the same time period with the foundation skills assessments with the grade 4s, looking at March 2016 to the February period in 2021. And our data is very variable in what's being captured. Our FSA scores are notably lower than our district numeracy assessment scores, which is shocking and surprising because the FSAs are done in the fall of the grade 4 year, while the grade 3 numeracy assessment is done in May, June. Really, there is only a period of 3 or 4 months between the two assessments. So this much of a difference is leading to some questions about the validity of the data from both assessments and showing that we need another assessment tool to use at a school level to dive further into this. So as a staff, we have observed a number of challenges over the past couple of years with our numeracy. We're seeing that there's a gap in number sense and students not understanding how numbers work, the relationships of numbers to quantities and numbers to each other. There's a gap in the understanding of concepts and conceptual awareness, the nitty-gritty of what does it mean when we are adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. What is a fraction? But the fractions are also tied into our number sense. We have gaps in student fluency, the ability to recall facts or use strategies to get your facts quickly. And the major concern for us right now is a lack of resilience and grit, and students' ability to attack a problem and that is challenging and to stick with it even when it is hard and when they need to try multiple strategies. So our goal is to build a positive math culture leading to increased student number sense, understanding, fluency, and grit. And grit is our overarching character goal for this school year. So our questions, or the guiding questions for this really are, what strategies can we implement to build a positive math culture at our school increasing conceptual understanding and decreasing math anxiety. What strategies can we implement to build that culture? What strategies are going to build computational understanding and fluency? And how will building a positive math culture reduce anxiety? We're seeing increasing math anxiety amongst our students, and that students are becoming more and more anxious about math all the time. And we're also hearing a lot of anxiety from our parents. The math makes me nervous. I don't know how to help with math. I was never any good at math. So our aims and objectives: build a positive math culture. For us to move anything forward with numeracy, with the understanding piece, we first have to look at the culture around numeracy. And having students build, and staff as well, build that understanding of positivity around math. We discuss and we spend hours talking about building a culture of literacy. We need to spend the equal amount of time building a positive culture of numeracy. So another aim is to increase student number sense. And students need number sense before they're going to be able to have any understanding of operation or any fluency. Students need to build their grit and resilience. And we also need to focus on the essential learning standards as defined by the Langley School District for each grade. So looking at who is involved, obviously our classroom teachers, administration, non-enrolling teachers, special education assistants, and then reaching outside of our building and connecting to the supports already available in the district. Instructional services staff, the teacher mentorship program. Our parents are huge stakeholders, especially in my school where our community is the foundation of what we do. Our students need a voice in changing the math culture because they're the ones whose learning it impacts. And then on to our broader community. So in this, our teacher's role is to collaborate to determine essential skills to focus on. And this will be done obviously in conjunction with administration and instructional services staff, following the essential standards for numeracy document. Collaborate in grade level teams to look at assessments and see where are the trends, where are our students first excelling, what can they do, and finding the gaps and where we need to provide additional support. So we then move on to assessing student understanding using different assessments. Currently, we're talking about looking at either the SNAP assessment or the Island Net to supplement the data that we already have. Once we have the assessments, we're going to look at co-planning for learning and using our collaboration time that we're given every week to focus on co-planning for learning around math, or at least some of our collab time, and then select goals together and plan for reaching them. Our administration will be able to support this by providing release time for grade level collaboration, which we currently have in place. We get, as a grade group, 30 minutes per week, protected, guaranteed, where the administrators take our students out for DPA, and we get to work in our grade level teams. So also currently in place, we have time in our staff meetings that allows for collaboration between different grade groups. And hopefully admin will be able to push into classrooms to work with students and support instruction. Sit and work with a small group, share solving a problem with us, and definitely collaborating with teachers and being part of those conversations around numeracy. So looking at our non-enrolling teachers, so that's resource, ELL, music, physical education, our teacher librarian in the Learning Commons, and collaborating with classroom teachers. They all have different areas of expertise that can be brought into our numeracy discussions, and sharing specialist knowledge, especially to support tier 2 and 3 learners when we're looking at the RTI tiers and our ELL students. as well, especially for resource and ELL, pushing into the classrooms and working with small groups of students. So connecting with our instructional services staff, looking to them to lead professional development opportunities, and this is happening around our district through instructional services. And there are opportunities for numeracy activities, and I'm seeing an increasing number of them. Help our staff at our schools to find professional readings. Often instructional services are the experts and know what's out there for resources and have taken the time to vet them. Instructional services staff are developing the district essential standards in numeracy, which are getting updated very consistently. It'll help us to find tech-based support tools to support learning and support teachers in implementing essential standards. We're very fortunate to have instructional services staff that are only an email or a Teams message away and always willing to help, willing to connect, or even to come down to our schools and to sit with us in our classrooms and meet to model a lesson. So really making sure that we connect with those resources. So our next group that we would be connecting with is our teacher mentorship program. And this connects new teachers in our district, usually in the first 4 years of teaching or in the district, with more experienced teachers. And this was probably one of the best supports I could have had in my first few years of teaching. And I am incredibly thankful for the wonderful mentors I had through this program. And the mentorship program also helps us to form connections with other schools, because they purposely help you connect with somebody who's not in your building so that you build those connections across from school to school. Our parents are part of this. They are huge stakeholders and voices in their children's education. Parents definitely participating in math attitude surveys, participating in math games days or numeracy afternoons, so creating opportunity for families to come into the school and play a math game, participate in a number talk and see the numeracy in action, and share areas of expertise related to numeracy. Many of our parents have phenomenal expertise, thinking of my own classroom, areas of medicine, pharmacy, nursing, x-ray, construction, business. Parents are using math in their day-to-day lives. So bringing them in to be part of that discussion. So our next one would be our special education assistants, our SEAs. And really having them participate in discussions around math attitudes, as their attitudes often influence a classroom to a similar degree that our own as teachers do. And they're big parts of our classroom and our school communities. SEAs may work with individuals or small groups as needed, depending on the needs of the student and the class, and share areas of expertise related to numeracy. So beyond our school, reaching into our community, there's the potential to connect with professionals using math day to day that will create meaningful connections to the world beyond school. And definitely the opportunity for professional development opportunities. And finally, our students, which is really what this is focused on. So participating in math attitude surveys, participating in pre and post assessments, and participating in classroom activities. Okay, so this provides a lot of opportunity for collaboration. So we have our weekly grade group PLC meetings, design and assessment days that come up at the end of each term, our district TCS teams. Through Microsoft Teams, we're able to connect across the district. There's professional development days, after school workshops, either online or through the school board office, and meeting with our instructional services team. Moving on, looking at strategies, and starting with strategies to build number sense. Looking at high yield math routines, rich tasks, calendar routines, and number talks. Our primaries often participate in daily calendar routines, and these are rich verbal times that students are able to make those mathematical connections. Number talks are a great opportunity for students to share their mathematical thinking orally, and many of our Number sense routines are oral. There's not a lot of writing, which really does lower the barrier for some of the more anxious students. So looking at strategies to build understanding. So looking in the Carol Fullerton resources, which we already have in our building, Building Thinking Classrooms from Peter Liljedahl at SFU, looking at rich tasks that allow students to really think and dive into the math. Low threshold, high ceiling tasks are ones that any student in the classroom can find an entry point and an access point, but yet those who are ready for an extension can take them as high as they'd like, and the sky is truly the limit with these. Something like a problem of the day or a problem of the week for students to solve. And problem of a week is something that we have found very successful in the past, where students are able to share their responses to a problem that has been posted to the school community. And typically these have been low threshold, high ceiling tasks, so they are accessible for our kindergartners and for our grade 5s. Looking at strategies to build fluency. Math games, looking at the resources from Boxcars and One-Eyed Jacks out of Calgary, I believe. They have a lot of great games for cards and dice, ones that once we teach them, we can grab and go. Students know the rules. Evergreen games, very similar. We can teach them early in the year with numbers concepts or with addition, and then we can play throughout the year things like bump, longest line, roll and add, roll and multiply, roll and subtract. There's also flip and these can be varied for different levels within our classrooms and differentiation. Simply with a dice game, if you're doing roll and multiply, a group that struggles with multiplication could play with your 6-sided die. Most of my grade 4s will play with a 10-sided dice, and those that are ready for increasing challenge may play with a 12-sided die, a 20-sided die, or I've even recently ordered a few 30-sided, which will increase that challenge factor for those who are ready. Again, number talks come back as strategies to build fluency along with high-yield math routines. And then in our district, many classrooms have Mathletics subscriptions. And Mathletics is a fabulous online tool that allows students to play math games and will help build their fluency. So looking at strategies to build our resilience and grit, looking at classroom discussions around growth mindset. On the U Cubed website, Joe Bowler has some fabulous video resources around growth mindset, specifically related to math under the week of inspirational math. Looking at read alouds, social stories, discussing resiliency and grit, characters who have demonstrated it. A book like Salt in His Shoes, which is Michael Jordan's story, is fabulous. Julia Cook is another author who writes things like thanks for the feedback, I guess. I just want to do it my way. And they're fabulous social stories about many skills that students need. Jory John, books like The Cool Bean, Couch Potato, Smart Cookie are another one to model some of that social thinking, building resiliency and grit. And then introducing students to famous mathematicians, having them connect it to the people. And I'm thinking the women from Hidden Figures who did all the math behind putting people into space. The Ada Lovelace, Pascal, and all the different mathematicians showing how they've grown, how they've struggled, and how they overcame various challenges to do what they did. So our assessment needs right now would be math attitude surveys, pre and post assessments. Now at this time we need to select from the Island Net assessments or the Snap Math assessments, both of which are aligned to the BC curriculum and freely available online. So we do need to look at our standardized assessments, the district grade 4 numeracy or grade 3 numeracy assessment and the grade 4 foundation skills assessment. And also creating some math interviews for each grade to give an opportunity to talk to students about their math and about what they're learning and how they're feeling about it. So we do require some professional resources. The Carol Fullerton books, Mathematical Mindsets from Joe Bowler would be a great one to have a book study on as a staff. Mindset Mathematics, which accompanies Mathematical Mindsets and has beautiful, rich tasks for all grade levels. I believe those books go from K to 8, but we would need the K to 5 set in our school. The Good Questions to Differentiate Mathematics, which I believe is a Marion Small resource, and Building Thinking Classrooms in Mathematics from Peter Liljedahl. Even better if we could connect with him and bring him out to our school to talk to us. So the professional development we need. So we need some book studies and choosing one, obviously, not doing all three, but mathematical mindsets, high-yield math routines, and building thinking classrooms. Some professional development around number sense routines, guided math, and creating rich math tasks. And these are things that we could connect with instructional services about. So implementation. We're getting into the nitty-gritty here. So 8 stages of implementation, and we're going to follow the data-wise cycle. And the timeline has yet to be determined until we really start discussing this openly as a staff, diving into the data. We don't know how long it's going to take, and we need to honor that change and changing our culture is going to take time. It's not an overnight process. It might not be a this year process. This could be a 2-year or a 5-year process to really truly make a difference in the culture. In building culture around math and discussing math. So in phase 1, we're going to select a pre-assessment and determine what we are looking for in that pre-assessment with our students, and then develop the math attitude survey for students, staff, and parents or our community. So at this point, this is just teachers collaborating, and we did skip the first step of the data-wise cycle, beginning to collaborate together, because that is already in place in our building. So looking on to phase 2, we are going to administer the pre-assessments and complete the math attitude survey for students and parents. This is something we might want to consider using Microsoft Forms, as Forms does have built-in tools for data management and data collection, and it graphs responses. And it helps us organize some of the data, and it will give us a nice, pretty Excel sheet at the end to look at. So moving into phase 3, we're going to collect and organize survey data. So what was submitted in Microsoft Forms and any print copies that have come in. We're going to assess pre-assessments and organize the data. So we're going to see, what do our students know? Where are the gaps? And just looking at the data and sharing the data out with with the staff, and also having the data available to share with our community. In phase 4, we're going to look at the Building a Positive Math Culture presentation, which I have posted as a second PowerPoint with this one. Implement number talks or number sense routines. So now we're getting into implementing some of the ideas. And implement guided math groups. Very similar, for those who are unfamiliar, to guided reading groups, where students work with the teacher in a homogeneous group of similar level. So this is very differentiated for students. So in phase 5, we're going to re-administer the pre-assessments and surveys and collect the data. So this is a midpoint. Let's see how we're doing. And this will allow us to see if what we're doing and implementing is having an impact, or if we need to change course with what we've been implementing. In phase 6, we're going to begin the low threshold, high ceiling tasks if they're not already started. And if not already started, attempting vertical math on a regular basis. Phase 7 brings us to re-administering the survey and assessments, collecting the data, and sharing the data back out to see, really measuring our success at this point. This could be used as a formative assessment for our initiative if this is something we're interested in keeping moving forward, or this could be our summative assessment to monitor our growth. In Phase 8, we're going to use the data collected in Phase 7 to determine next steps. Is this something we are continuing, or is this something that we can say we've been pretty successful at? So, and finally, determining success. And acknowledging that this could be a multi-year process to rebuild the culture, and this isn't going to be overnight. So we're looking for growth in our assessment measures that are either our SNAP or our Island Net, whatever we choose as a staff for pre-assessment. Looking for growth on the standardized assessments, the district numeracy, and the FSA. Increasingly positive responses to math attitude surveys, and taking the time to celebrate the small victories. The kid that says, I don't hate math anymore, or that asks, what's the big problem to solve today? So that's our initiative for building a positive math culture. Thank you very much for your time today.